in Greater Orlando. She's a certified holistic health practitioner, executive wellness strategist, and a speaker and storyteller who helps high performing people confront the truth they've been avoiding, that you can't outperform your pain. So, Donna, you describe yourself as a speaker and storyteller. And I know you're doing more speaking these days, and we can get into that. But before we do, I want to start with something you said in your profile. You call yourself a trauma survivor who rebuilt your life from the inside out. Can you tell us more about that?
So I had a lot of issues growing up. I had a narcissistic parent that kept me pretty sheltered and convinced me that I wasn't as smart as I was. So all through life, I was taught to give, 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 but never to accept anything in return because I wasn't worthy of it. And that was how I was raised. By the time I was married, and I was married very young because she told me I had to be married very young, and I was in a relationship that also was keeping me, you can't do this because you don't understand this, or you can't do that because you're not good enough for that. So I had a childhood and a younger life of not believing in myself. So coming forward a few years, quite a few years, um, I had an event that was an assault that took a lot out of me. And when that happened, it was very difficult to get people to listen and believe anything because I was always raised not to tell people things, to keep things inside. You're not worthy of it. So, coming forward to COVID and after COVID, when we started getting back on the road and doing things, I had a horrific situation that brought back some flashbacks and some trauma. And at that point, I realized that I was disassociating and I was pushing it down so deep that I felt like just a shell of a person. During that moment, I realized I never had anyone that protected me except for my father, who died when I was younger. But I had never had that protective person or protective space. And that was the aha moment of no, these things legitimately happen to you. These are the things you have to face. And my whole life, I was living with this, think of it like being on the Titanic and throwing the deck chair off to save you. Nothing was worthy. That deck chair wasn't going to help me because can't save me. Um, I had to start working on my inner self. The trauma of just being told you're not enough or you're not worthy, it doesn't number. And then the assault really just broke me. And then internalized it. And then the second event that happened really just brought it all out. And those are the things that, I talk with women who've been um, assaulted or sexually assaulted or traumatized by domestic abuse. And you don't realize what it does to you, especially when it's your whole life. So those are my traumas. And that's where I come from to revert back into the holistic health.
So, out of your personal experience that you're now, are you developing your holistic health as your concentration, or you're speaking, or are they both kind of hand in hand?
So I use it this way: I have modalities and I have my purpose. My purpose is to help high achieving women or high achieving any of the clients, but mostly women, um, come back to who they really are. And we have to do that with different modalities. One of the modalities is speaking. The holistic health is a modality to get to the purpose of bringing that person back to themselves. So I use all of it as my tools to get into the purpose of helping somebody. Whichever way it works, I'm bringing that all together.
And so I'm going to shift. I'm going to go back and forth here,
Okay,
all over the place. So
go
you're
for
a
it.
mother of six, and how does that affect your business? Because it seems like that's a. I mean, I have four kids. Well, they're not kids anymore, but I know that they absorb so much of your time. How do you balance that out?
Well, first of all, I am 59 years old now. So, because I was married so young, I had children when I was younger. So, my oldest is going to be 39. And then my youngest biological child is 24. And then I had fostered and adopted, and she is now 9. So, I have 5 biological and 1 adopted. So, I had homeschooled my children to teach them. Um, about life. I wanted them to get the feeling of love and the feeling of respect and the feeling of you can do anything that I didn't get. So I poured that into my kids. And I'm still pouring it into this last one. Um, so it's affected them as adults where they're looking at me and going, wow, she's taking what could have drowned her and brought her back and now she's pouring out into others. And I see in them that they're looking at me, and my daughter, who is 28, said, I have never been more proud of you because she sees that I've reversed the course and I've broken that trauma cycle. I refuse to continue generational trauma. So I broke that cycle and I've given them the tools that they can be high achieving adults. I'm doing the same with the one that's the little one. So I tell everybody I'm the oldest mother on record, or that's how I feel. And she really is who pushed me to be who I am today. She was the push because at one point when I re-entered that trauma cycle of like this moment of recognition of, hey, you've got unresolved trauma, hey, you are going inside of yourself, you're deepening and you're not focusing on the things around you, you need to break this. And she made me realize that I had to get healthy myself in order to take care of her for a life that she deserved. She did not deserve the life that she came from, and I wanted to give her a better life. So I went on a hike with her when I was at a very unhealthy weight. And as we were walking up this mountain, she's going, Mama, we are women and we can do this. We are strong. And my immediate reaction to her was, no, child, you have 7-year-old legs and I have 57-year-old legs. You are strong. I am dying. But I worked so hard to make it better for her. I had to turn around that and make it better for me to be the best version for her. And that's the whole point of turning it around and bringing it back in. We cannot do things in our life for other people if we're pulling from exhaustion and we're pulling from empty. But we can if we fill our buckets first. And our
So you've
buckets
had
are health.
your metamorphosis, so to speak, is more recent. It wasn't like, or how does that? So because your other kids now, how does that affect them at when they were growing up versus the last child?
I hit it really well because I poured into them everything that I didn't get. So they were my reasons for living. They were my reasons for waking up in the morning and doing everything. I took them everywhere. We did things that I wasn't able to do when I was younger. They'll tell you we schooled on the road. Every time I saw a brown sign on the side of the highway, it was a historical marker. We would go and we'd read it and we would investigate it and we actually would study what it was about and where it came from and how it affected people. Um, and doing that gave me the childhood I didn't have. I was vicariously living through them. So now they look and they say, we had an amazing childhood. But now, now we don't have a companion, we have a mom. And I feel like I've earned that level of trust and that level of respect that maybe I had when they were younger, but it was more as I don't want to call it a playmate because I didn't like play with them, but I was more on their level. And when they left home, it crushed me because I was like, well, you're my purpose. No, get back here. And And they weren't my purpose. They were just what I was doing to fill my bucket until I realized I had to fill my own. So,
So, were you a single mom most of this, or did you raise the kids on your own, or did you have a spouse that also helped you with some of this?
yes. So, my husband worked in the pharmaceutical field as like a records, electronic records and things like that. Um, he was on the road a lot, and he would be in Indianapolis from Sunday afternoon until Thursday night. So I had him at home Fridays and Saturdays. So it was single parenting in the sense that he just wasn't home.
Mm-hmm.
And he was doing that for years. I would say most of their childhood. And then trying to remember when he actually came home was probably about 2008, 2007. And it was during those times it was like I did this all by myself. So you're stepping on my territory here. Um, I'm not gonna lie, he was part of the problem, and he was part of the real heavy stress, and he was what got me to the point of breaking and realizing that things needed to change. I mean, he's still, he's still here. He's still helping me with this one. Um, it takes an army to raise a child, and I felt like I was alone for most of it. But
So I'm just kind of curious about the adoption. How did you end up with the last child? And there's a quite a big gap there between the last one and then this ultimately the last one.
well, when she was placed with us, I made the statement, half joking and half not. If she's here more than 24 hours, I'm not giving her back because I'm going to fall in love. It's a baby, and I knew that my babies were flying the nest. Um, and I fell in love with her so much. She is my heart and soul. Um, I just can't imagine life without her. And she really, I believe, was given to me for a purpose. And that purpose was to show her that nothing can stop you. Nothing is going to prevent you, regardless of where you came from. You have everything at your fingertips that you can succeed in. So I really believe that's what it was. But when they said that we were free to adopt, I was like, oh, yes, I'm adopting. There was no question about it. But yeah, she was placed as a foster, an emergency foster.
Oh wow. Okay. So tell me, how has this all shaped your business that you're, because you really put this on the forefront of who you are as a business person. Yeah, so tell me how this your experience as a mother of six, trauma survivor, and now an adopted child who's not really your adopted child, is your like your real child, or I mean like your biological child.
Oh, yes.
I mean, she is your real child, but how has this shaped your business and how you approach, that side of things?
Boy, that's a tough question. Because I had to dig deep inside to going through an adoption is extremely traumatizing, trust me. Foster care, going through the courts. It just brought up, like I said, a lot of information in my head. So, what I have taken from that and how I have changed my life was I had to learn that I couldn't continue to pour out what she needed or what my kids needed or what my friends needed. When they were asking me questions, I'm like, guys, if I don't give it to myself first, I can't give it back to you. I needed to draw that boundary. So I decided and it's kind of funny, um, I decided when everybody was coming at me and telling me how you couldn't do things and you can't do things, you can't do that. I was like, you know what? I can. And I'm going to prove it to everybody. And I went back to school. I went back to school. I got my holistic health practitioner certification, got licensed with the American Association of Douglas Practitioners. I then thought, that's not enough. I want to do more. So I went back for creative writing and journalism, and that wasn't enough. I needed to do more. So, I stood on the stage at UCLA and graduated summa cum laude. And I was like, you know something? I'm not stupid. I am not stupid. And people need to know that they are not stupid. And people need to know that they can change other people's lives. When I started looking into how I could do that, I realized the very first thing that I needed was to realize that I was okay, that my body was okay. So I thought, I think women really need to understand that their bodies can be worked on. So I knew I had a story to teach somebody and a way to help them get stronger and a way to pour into themselves without needing a lot of external people or factors, just themselves. You can do it yourself by inner work. So when I opened my business, I did it for coaching. And I had some clients and it was fairly good. But I decided to go with body sculpting because every woman that walks through my door says the same thing. I got this pouch right here. I don't know what it is. Must be menopause. Must be perimenopause. I don't know, but you need to shrink it and get rid of it. Okay. And then I realized everybody that was on the table started having this bartender effect. As they're getting treated, as they're going through their sculpting, as they're going through their massage personal therapy, they're telling stories. And you can see the pain after week, you're starting to see this pain. So instead of being just a body sculpting or just a coaching session, it ends up being, I can help you through that. And this is what I did for myself. And these are some boundaries that you can do. I'm just giving you some tools. I don't want to teach you a rule to do. I just want to give you some ways that may help you. And then next week they come back and they say, hey, I lost 3 pounds. Yeah, you reduced your stress level. And I shrunk you, but you reduced your stress level. I know, I feel freer. Okay. And then that was the model I went with. Some of these women told me about their sexual assaults or their domestic violence. And I've actually been able to help them get through that. The sexual assault situation, they don't want to be touched. So my big thing with no touching is I have a directed cryo, which just hangs over them and sprays them. Um, no physical touch ever takes place. And then I realized they needed to be touched. They needed that hug. So it's been claimed that people hug for less than 3 seconds. But when you get to that 5 second mark, your inner body actually feels and releases. So if something takes 5 seconds, you can do an internal hug by walking outside and getting the sunshine for at least 5 seconds. So I teach them just for 5 seconds, do something that your body needs. Put your feet on the grass, do whatever. Just come back to me next week and let me know how it worked. And then they would start to come back and go, feels so good, but I need more. Tell me more. So by getting them in the door because of body image issues, I was able to turn it around and get them in the door because they felt safe to come here. And then we started working on touch. So now I can come up to them and I can touch their arm and say, how you doing today? Or, now I'm getting hugs as they walk out the door because they understand how to release some of that stress. And people are coming in happier and they're coming in not because they're 5 inches skinnier. They're coming in because when they come in, it's a safe place. It's a place where they're trusted and they're listened to and they're believed. And that is what I want to give back to the women. And that's what I want to give these high achievers. A lot of my executives that are coming in, because of where I live, a lot of them work in the theme parks and they're high end executives. And it's very stressful because it's client facing. Um, they come in and they're like, no, I'm not supposed to feel this way. And then when they start to cry and they're releasing things, and it's all I did was shrink a couple inches off of them, and we start that whole process all over again. So when they're coming in for body sculpting, when they're coming in for nutrition guidance, they're getting the underlying. I'm telling them what your problem isn't. It isn't the food that you're eating. It's how you're using the food that you're eating, or it's not the job that you're in. It's that you're not facing the stress that you have in your body. It's that you're not facing whatever it is that's stopping you from giving your best. Once you go in and you see what's bothering you, we work on that. When we work on that, the inches fall off, the food gets better. You see a happier person, you see a lighter person in their energy, and it becomes a transformation. So that's how I use that modality. I just work with everything.
So tell me about the speaking side. Is that something new that you're doing, or is that something that you've been just kind of? It looked like you were kind of emphasizing that on your LinkedIn profile,
Yeah.
which is so you can speak to larger numbers of women at one time. But tell me about that. How did that develop, and how'd you get your first gig? Um,
So it's funny because I'm an EMT. My first gig was with a group of EMTs and first responders. So I got in there and I had my speech all planned out. I knew exactly what I was going to talk to. It was about, vicarious trauma, vicarious stress, because in that field you work with that,
mhm.
and how to release that and what it looks like in your body. And I was all prepared, and I got there. I woke up in the morning to get on that stage to speak, and I was approached by the captain, and he said, "Hey, we've had a situation that one of our own um, lost his life, and it was a traumatic situation, and it just happened." He said, "Would you shift your conversation?" I'm like, but I had it memorized, you know. uh, and I realized at that moment, I was like, no, you're not meant to memorize. You're meant to go in and see who's in front of you, and you're meant to speak to them. So my first gig, so to speak, was pivoting and speaking to the people and letting them know how to avoid the pitfall of vicarious stress, and how to speak to somebody. And then I turned to the people that were above them, their managers, their supervisors, their captains, and saying, look, they have to trust you. And in order to trust you, they have to be able to go to you and speak the truth. And you need to go to them and be able to help them through all of this. And if you're dealing with your own situation, you're not going to be able to work with them because you aren't giving all of it. You're just giving what you have available. So we have to work through all of these things. And by giving them examples and tools to use, and ways that they can heal as a group and individually, but it really comes from above. Um, it was one of the highest performing speaking moments that I've had. The other speaking situations I've had are just groups of women, high end executives. I've done speaking with church groups with women. I've done speaking to, and I love it, the teenagers in some of these boys and girls types clubs. And I love talking with the girls and letting them know that, where they come from doesn't matter who you are. You don't have to remain where you are. Don't let that be your stumbling block. Dream, deal with whatever's going on. We're going to work through it. You're going to realize who you are, and we're going to get you to the top. And here's how we're going to do it. And those are the kinds of the speaking situations. I tell them my story. I tell them what happened to me growing up. I tell them, walking in a parking garage and waking up in a hospital. I go through all of those things. Um, and my story is funny enough or sad enough, is similar to some of theirs. And, sometimes you hear, you're not my color. So how do you know what I've gone through? I said, oh, did you have this happen? Yes. Then I understand where you're coming from. That no one else can. Unless you've had those situations, you don't know.
Mhm.
So you earn that trust, you earn that respect. But those are the types of places that I've spoken to. I like the act of storytelling. I like telling them what has happened to me and why it matters and where it can get you. Um, just I love it, and then I use that as well as an avenue into the retreats, because when you're speaking and you hit a nerve on somebody, and they come up to you afterwards and they're like, "You just like said exactly who I am. Okay. Well, what do I do? It's okay. Don't worry about it. We're going to have a retreat in 3 months. There's two empty spaces or whatever. Um, it's a 3 day reset. I promise you, you will leave 100% understanding what to do. You have to be the one to implement it, but we'll get you to that point.
So
And
tell me about those.
the
What,
retreats.
yeah, how about how does that work, and where do you go, and what happens?
Okay. So it has
I
been
have this
said,
list of questions. I don't think I've asked you one of them yet.
I'm so sorry.
No, no,
um,
this is much better.
okay. So, what is actually really funny about the retreats is when people talk about them, they say it's just a big adult woman sleepover slumber party. And it's really not, but that's what they call it because I try to give them multiple activities during the day. So we have group sessions. We learn about reframing the brain and bringing the trauma out privately. We don't have to do it as a group, but we teach them how to get to that. They have journals they can write in. They have different grounding activities that they can do alone or together. It's completely however they need it or what they feel they need. So we bring that right out in the front. But what I do is I have a room that has what we call the quiet room. You go in there just to have your quiet. You can have your books, whatever you want to do. We have another room with puzzles and activities and drawing, coloring, believe it or not, coloring. Then we have another, which we call the spa room. And I do the facials and I can do the body work there. I do that with what I call a safe touch. So nothing is done unless it's agreed upon. If you need a facial and you are terrified of having your face touched because you don't know me, I ask, is it okay if I touch your cheeks and put the cream on? And things like that. And the body work is always done with a trauma informed manner. Then we have group sessions, but I always tell everybody you can wear your pajamas. You don't have to get dressed the entire time you're there. We're just going to bring our blankets. We're going to sit on the couches. We're going to sit on the floors. We're going to have the fire, whatever we need to get a workable session going. Lunches, dinners, everything is corporate. We're all working together. I have someone that will come in and cook and bake, but it's all healthy, nutritional food. We sit and we make teas out of, I work with an apothecary, and she will give me these teas and tell exactly what they're for, different herbs, and they can build their own teas. So they say, oh, we come to a giant sleepover. We're having a slumber party with our girlfriends. We're doing facials. We're, doing hair. We're coloring, watching movies, talking, and we're cooking. It is a old-fashioned slumber party. And we also have activities where we go outside and sit by a fire pit, or we'll go into the mountains and we will hike, or we'll go to the beach and we will walk. The last one that we had was a mini retreat. It's semi-private, and it was on Cocoa Beach. When we were there, it was four of us, and we were learning a program called Survivor to CEO. And RC Gray from rcgray.com, she was the one that was leading that portion of it. And we did that for 3 days. We had the best fun. We went out to eat. We went on the beach and we watched the launches go off we were literally in direct eyesight of the launch pad and watched the launch go off. And we were laughing, saying we were launching our lives and we watched the launch go off. Um, but those are the kinds of things that we do at the retreats. They're semi-private. They can be larger. The mountains of Georgia, the beaches in Florida, um, Cape Cod, looking to do one in Italy. So looking to do something in the mountains in Italy, in Tuscany region. But pretty much if I get a phone call and told, hey, I'm in Utah and I want three of my friends and I to have a retreat, I will be to Utah with my supplies. Just tell me what, and I will be there and I will secure a location and be there. and we will do the retreat. So my
So
retreats can
tell
be
me, how do
anywhere.
you,
Sorry.
go ahead. No, 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 go
No,
ahead.
I was
I
going to
didn't
say,
interrupt you.
they can be anywhere from two people, one person. I can do a private retreat, but all the way up to, I don't like to do more than 10 because there's only two of us. I have one, and like I said, my friend RC will help out. And with that, you get a full body reset. But so I can do anything. And they range anywhere from, 750 all the way up to $5,000, depending on what you want, how you want it, and where I am. So that's how I do it.
So how do you promote your business? Or I mean, is it all word of mouth, or do you do marketing, or how do you or are you looking to grow your business, or you're just looking to kind of maintain where you are right now, or how does all that work?
Well, right now I'm in the process of redoing my webpage. I I have a person that is a company actually that's doing it, and it's beautiful. So it's being rebranded and redone. That is for my physical location business. That part I have, it's going well. The retreats, the speaking, those are the things that I don't want to say more focused on. The retreats I'm actually more focused on because I feel like I have a higher impact at the retreats than I do even
Hmm.
in the speaking. That's pretty much where I want to promote myself a little more authentically, because nobody's heard my voice. Nobody has seen me unless they've been to a retreat. I come at it from a point of, look, I was you 4 years ago, sitting there stressed out, dysregulated, not knowing what my purpose was in life. And in 3 days of hard inner work, I figured out my purpose. I figured out my life. But like I said, I thought I left the soul of my ancestors on a mountain somewhere because I felt that exhausted. And, I got up to the top and I realized this is what peace feels like. And I had never in 55 years knew what peace felt like. And people go, how? And it's the truth. Until you reach that point, you don't understand what real, true inner peace and happiness and clarity feels like. And that is what I bring to the retreats. And that is really, really what I want to do to bring women in, bring women who are there trying to run a business, or even manage a group of women, or manage a group of men and women. I don't, whatever. They need to feel that in order to see that, your people are not grouchy. Your people are not struggling with you. They're struggling with themselves. So maybe if you can go to them and say, hey, I know it's something's going on. So if you need something, we can set up services for you. But knowing what's going on and letting them know, I know you're not angry. I know you're not frustrated with what the situation is here, but let's fix what's really going on inside of you. It's all being trauma informed. So if you can fix the highest source, it'll trickle down. And that
I
is
can
the
tell you're really
goal.
passionate about this,
I
about your,
am. I am so
so
passionate
it
about
really
it.
shows through. It
Yeah.
does.
Thank
So
you.
I'm gonna wind it up right here, and but you need to tell me how, if people are interested, tell us where this new website is. When is it gonna be? When is your new website gonna be done?
My new website should be done by the middle of February, maybe the end of February, but
Okay.
definitely by the end of February. And
But it
it's
doesn't
vital.
matter. I mean, they
No.
can still get this passion if they go to your old website. So what?
Yes. Well, yes. I did the old website, so it's not that great.
but but
Technology and I do
but
not
you,
work.
it's not your website. It's you and
Yeah.
your passion and what you're delivering here. So tell us, how do they get in touch with you? Would they call you? Do they go on their website? Do they send you an email?
Yes.
How about all
So,
that information so that
okay. So my web page is vitality by donna.com, and you can reach me at donna@vitality by donna.com, or you can text me at my work number, which is 352 805-3939. Just text and say retreat, and I will get back to you. Or if you are local to where I am in Florida and you can drive, or I need to get to you, I can do that too. I have no problem. If you call me from California and you say, I need you out here, I can just get me a ticket and I'll be right there. I am very much mobile. I'm very much passionate about being there. Um, like I said, I've gone from shelters to women's centers. I've worked with survivors. I've worked with what I say. I am no longer considering myself a survivor. I'm considering myself a warrior, and that's basically where I come from on LinkedIn, especially. I want you to see the parts of life that are worth looking back at. Go back to the place where you found joy and happiness. And sometimes that's your childhood. Sometimes it's really deep into your childhood, like 3 years old when you got your first tricycle or you had your first ice cream. I don't know. But wherever you found your feet, your first sense of peace and happiness, and that's where we're going to start from. And we're going to work all the way back to being an adult. And we're going to do it in a short period of time. And you will be surprised at the change that you find. That will continue on. I'm always available for whatever.
Well, thanks a lot, Donna. So hang with me for a second. I'm going to press the stop button here, but we'll continue on.